Good evening. I am Bill Brown. I'm the Director of Innovative Evangelism for the Baltimore-Washington Conference and your host for Training Tuesday. It's a joy to welcome you to our second to last episode of Season 2. We'll be launching Season 3 in the fall, but we're excited to be joined by a great cast of presenters today. Just some technical information. For those who are interested, this is being recorded and the PowerPoint that is being shared tonight will be made available, and all of that will be posted to the conference website no later than Thursday, unless of course there's some technical glitches, then maybe a little bit later, but we usually like to get those posted by Thursday. If you do have a question, the chat feature is not enabled, it is disabled, so don't use the chat. You also don't have to raise your hand, just ask your question in the Q&A and we'll get to questions as each section of the training comes to a close. So once again, this is being recorded. It will be made available with the PowerPoints. Use the Q&A for questions. Without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague and friend, the Reverend Dr. Jerry Green, District Superintendent of the Greater Washington District. Good evening, Jerry, and welcome.
Good evening, Reverend Bill Brown. And thank you for being the master guru for our Training Tuesdays. It is indeed a pleasure to be with you this evening. I greet you on behalf of our Episcopal leader, Bishop Latrell Miller Easterling, and the district superintendents of the Baltimore-Washington Conference. And indeed, it is a pleasure for me to be with you as you enter into this Training Tuesday about church conference process. I would like to share with you that we have some wonderful presenters this evening. John Gutierrez, Tanya Bennett, Crystal Medley, and Christine Taylor. They will be our presenters. And I'm thankful that so many people have decided to sign up for this Training Tuesday. We want the church conference season to go smoothly. And your willingness to sign up and to find out about the process will enable you to do what is best in terms of completing documents and making certain that the information is available to our DAs ahead of time. So I want to thank our DAs for all the time and energy that they put into planning this Training Tuesday, but also the efforts that they put in throughout the year to make the DSs look good. So thank you for your leadership. Why don't we begin with a word of prayer? Let us pray. Gracious God, amidst the storms that are raging around us, we gather to accomplish your will. We gather to obtain information that will allow us to be faithful disciples in reporting the ministries that are taking place within our local churches. We gather to make certain that as we go through the church conference season, that we have accurately completed the documents that are necessary for us to faithfully report how we have been faithful disciples within our particular churches. We thank you, gracious God, for the leadership of our DAs. We thank you for the leadership of the laity within each congregation. We pray that each person that is gathered on this Zoom gathering will be able to receive the knowledge that is necessary for them to complete the church conference documents appropriately and properly, and that if they have any questions, those questions will be addressed appropriately. We know, gracious God, that you are a God of grace, a God of glory. We pray, gracious God, that in the midst of the church conference season, that those who are completing documents will be extended a great deal of grace and no grief. We thank you, dear Lord, for this opportunity to gather and for the many persons who have gathered to receive this information, but also for all the persons who have put in hours to make certain that these documents represent what is needed by the Baltimore-Washington Conference. Thank you to God for the opportunity to be in ministry with one another. And we pray that as the storm is raging around us, that it will not impact our ability to communicate with one another over this virtual forum. Dear Lord, we offer this prayer in the blessed name of your Son, who continues to be our Lord and Savior, Jesus the Christ. Amen. At this time, we turn it over to Crystal.
Good evening, everyone. Our objective for this training will be to look at the forms and the worksheets on our screen, understand how to log into the self-service side of Arena, and distinguish between a church username and our personal username. We will show you how to update the committee listing to ensure that committee chairs have access to their reports and their members list. As you begin church conference season, you should let the church know the date, time, and location if your church conference is being held in person. If it is a virtual church conference, you should provide them with the link so that they can attend. Please print out the church conference checklist. This is the best way to track the reports that your church should be working on, whether these reports have been submitted. Your church should have a recording secretary. This person is responsible for taking the minutes, and the minutes should include all voting and general information that is discussed. They should then upload the minutes into Arena 10 days after your church conference. A vote count should be taken when voting on candidates for ordained ministry. If a multi-point charge minutes may be uploaded into all churches' records. Now I will walk you through the church conference website page. You will find the church conference webpage by going to our website, www.bwcumc.org. If you hover over the word resources, then select church conference forms. On this page, you will find the church conference checklist. Again, this is a guide for what needs to be completed by October 1 and uploaded into the system, or 10 days before your church conference meeting if it occurs before October the 1st. The checklist will tell you how to complete each form. It will tell you if a report needs to be signed and uploaded or if it is electronic filing. Original signatures are required on the clergy compensation form, the clergy misconduct form. Please remember to answer all questions before signing and submitting this form. The clergy certification, the certification of compliance report, the nominations report, and the inactive membership report. Schedules and agendas are located on this page. On the right, you will see the benefits information, which includes the 2002 Health Flex rates and pension information, the 2022 clergy pension and medical eligibility chart, and the pension calculator. The equitable compensation information and minimum compensation requirements are pending approval at our annual meeting, our annual conference. As we go down, you will see forms. The form should be completed, signed, scanned as a PDF, and uploaded into the church's arena. Please read all of the instructions and answer all questions before uploading. If a form does not apply to your church, please do not fill the form out. You only need to complete forms and reports that apply for your church. For example, if your church does not have any candidates for ordained ministry, you should not complete the declaration of candidacy form. If your church does not have a parsonage where the pastor lives, you should not complete a parsonage report. By the way, under forms, you will see the laity sexual misconduct questionnaire. This report must be completed each year by every ministry leader or anyone who may work with children, youth, or special needs adults. You can print this form to make sure they have answered all of the questions and signed it. Once forms are completed, you will retain them in a locked cabinet at the church office. These forms will not be submitted through Arena and should not be mailed to the district office. You can review your BWC sexual ethics policy by hovering over resources, clicking on the arrow next to the BWC policies and procedures, and then click sexual ethics policy. Next are worksheets. You can use these worksheets to collect the information to complete the report in Arena. The worksheets are not to be mailed to the district office. These are only provided to help you in collecting information before completing the Arena report. Finally, we have the frequently asked questions. Please read these before contacting your district administrator. A quick comment about church conference forms. Please review what is new for 2021. Changes to the church profile in the new Discipleship Ministry report, which will be our focus of the next Training Tuesday on August the 17th. Registration is required and it can be found at the conference website, Events Training Tuesdays. All forms should be completed in Arena. Nothing should be mailed to your district office unless it is requested. Pastors, church administrators, and designees responsible for managing and monitoring the church conference forms completions should log into Arena using the church's Arena account this year. Committee chairs, certified lay servants, lay speakers, lay ministers, and pastors have access to pertinent forms by logging in using their personal Arena accounts. Some items may be required. These items should have an asterisk or be highlighted in red. You cannot submit the report unless all of the mandatory questions are answered and attachments are uploaded. Please make sure you read instructions on every report before completing it. The due date for all reports in Arena is October the 1st. In a moment, we will show you how to log into Arena. Bill, do we have any questions?
So far, you're covering it so well, Crystal. No one has any questions, but if they do, you can use the Q&A feature. And so someone has a question about I'm thinking it's about next week's Training Tuesday. What form is being changed that we need to be trained on?
We are adding a new form, which is the new Discipleship Ministries report. And that form we will go over in detail next Tuesday.
And we have put the registration link in the chat. So you should be able to see that in the chat. And also, as Crystal has gone through, we've put other websites in the chat as well. Could you repeat again, what if the pastor does not live in the parsonage?
If the pastor does not live in the parsonage, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. If the church owns a parsonage, you should complete that regardless of whether or not the pastor is living in it. If the church does not have a parsonage, please do not complete a parsonage report.
And I think we can answer the rest of the questions. So if you would like to continue, please do.
Now we will discuss how to log into Arena. There are two different types of Arena accounts. One is your personal account, and it has a username similar to jpublic3, which is your first initial last name, and it may have a number if it's a common name. You will log into your personal account to register for events, update your personal information like your address or your email address or your telephone number, and to complete Arena reports depending upon your committee role. Church accounts. Church accounts have a username beginning with BWC hyphen, your 4-digit ID number hyphen, and then there are 2 letters or number identifiers. Each church already has a username. Please do not log into the church's account to register for events. There is a chance you can change the church's name and contact information by doing this, and we want to avoid that. By logging in as the church, a person can access all of the church conference reports, follow the progress of the reports, and see what has been submitted and update the committee listing. To log into the system, you will go to the BWC website, click on Arena at the top of the screen, input your username and password, and then click the login button. If you forget your login information, you can click the forgot username or forgot password. You will need your email link to the Arena account if you forget your username. You will need your username and your email link to get your account password. You will then receive an email with your username and password so that you're able to sign into the system. We will be logging in as a church account tonight. Once logged into the system, you will use the navigation menus on the right to choose the appropriate section to access your church conference forms, evaluation forms, and committee list. Choose church conference forms or church conference or church evaluations form when you are logging in as the church. Choose my church conference forms and my evaluation forms when you log in as an individual. To update a committee list, which is the nominations report, click on My Committees at the bottom of the navigation page. Please note, The name of your church is listed at the bottom of the page. This is useful if you have more than one church in your charge. To begin a report, you will click Start. On the left-hand side, you will see either Start or Edit. Then you will see the name of the report, a print button to print the completed report, and the status of the form. Not started will be highlighted in pink. In process will be highlighted in yellow, and completed will be in green. To start a report, you will click the Start button. If you have already worked on a report, you can click the Edit button. You will make sure that everyone will have everything they need so that the arena report can be completed by October the 1st. Once you are on the church conference landing page in Arena, you can choose the report you want to complete. For training purposes, we are going to be looking at the finance report. Several of the forms are pre-populated using the information that was put in last year. It is important that you go over the information and make updates as necessary. You will see that we have already completed this form during our testing stage. Everything in red has an asterisk and needs to be completed to submit the report. You will notice that if you leave a required field blank and try to submit the report, it will send you back to the first unanswered required question. Several of these reports require that you scan as a PDF and upload a document. In this case, we have already uploaded the document from last year. This document is out of date, so we are going to replace it with a newer version. All you need to do is click Change by adding a check mark next to the change file. Then choose the file you want to save. You can also remove a file and upload a new scan by clicking Change and following the same steps. Once you are done with this report, select In Progress or Complete. These are only buttons. They will not lock the report. You will be able to make updates even if you selected Complete. The purpose of these buttons are to let us and the person in charge of the forms know if the report is complete. Once you have made your selection, click Submit. And once you select, the window will open that says, "Thank you, your report has been received." The system will log you off after 2 hours if you are on the same form. You can move from form to form and stay in the system longer, but if you are on the same form for longer than that time, it will log you off and you will have to start again. Bill, do we have any questions?
We have some good questions that bear repeating. So rather than answer them privately, I think it's good for you to repeat them. So somebody is asking about when reports are due, and this is what they've asked. If our church conference is not until later in October or early November, are the forms still due by October 1st or 10 days before the church conference?
If your church conference is scheduled after October the 1st, all church conference reports are due on the 1st.
So it's 10 days before only if your church conference is scheduled prior to October 1st.
Correct.
Thank you. Now, I've got two questions about cooperative parishes. Does each church in the parish fill out the forms? Is it one form for the whole parish? How is it different for cooperative parishes and form filling?
In a cooperative parish, each church is responsible for filling out certain forms. And then depending upon the relationship, they may fill out a multi-point clergy compensation form. And then if Church A is the owner of the parsonage, then Church A would fill out a parsonage report, not Church B.
Thank you. That answers our questions. Thank you so much, Crystal.
Thank you. Now we will continue with Christine Taylor as she walks us through the certified lay servant, lay speaker, and lay ministry report.
Thank you, Crystal. To be in good standing, each certified lay servant and certified lay speaker must complete the annual report in ARENA and take a recertification class every 3 years. A certified lay minister must complete an annual report and recertify every 2 years. There are 3 ministry reports, lay ministry reports: certified lay servant, certified lay speaker, and certified lay minister. When you click on the My Church Conference forms in the ARENA, you will select that from the menu and you will see 3 certified lay reports available to you. So it is critical that you select the correct report to complete. If you are unsure about your status, please talk to your church administrator or your district administrator. To make sure you complete the correct form, it is recommended that you work from the worksheet found on the Church Conference resource page on the BWC website to be certain that you have all the required information for successful completion and submission of your annual report in ARENA. We'll start by taking a brief look at the certified lay servant report. The information you put in last year should carry over to this year. This includes the certificates. If you do not have an actual certificate for a class, please contact your district director of lay servant ministries. It is important that you have the actual certificates or statement of grace uploaded to the system. As you scroll down, you will be asked to provide the following: the year you took your basic course, an upload of your basic certificate, the year you took your first advanced course, and the title of the course, and an upload of your first advanced certificate. Next, you will be asked the date and title of your most recent advanced course. You will then need to upload your last advanced course certificate. For those of you who were recently certified, your most recent advanced course may also be your first advanced course. This means that you will need to re-upload your first advanced course certificate. If you are unable to take a recertification course this year and your certification expires this year or it expired last year, you will then need to upload the statement of grace document here. Uploading certificates in the certified lay reports is a little different than uploading a document in any other ARENA report. So let's do a quick review on how to upload your certificates. When asked to upload your certificate, click on Change, and you will see that we are now requesting additional information. You will have the option to select what kind of document you are uploading. We suggest using miscellaneous. Next, create a title. We suggest using the class name, and then finally, a description. If you were uploading a new document, you would select Choose File, and this will take you to your computer files. Select your file, and then click Save. You've now successfully uploaded your certificate. Next, you will be asked the date you submitted your application for certification as a certified lay servant, and you must also upload that certificate as verification of your status. If you do not have a certified lay servant certificate, please visit the conference website to download the application and submit it to your district director as soon as possible. If you are missing your certificate, you can also contact your district director for a replacement. Finally, scroll down to complete the remainder of the report. Once you've completed your report, scroll down to the bottom to submit it. If you are still collecting information, you can select in progress and then submit. However, if you select in progress, everything in red with an asterisk must be answered before you click submit. You can always fill in the required information with TBD as a placeholder. If you have completed your report, please select the complete button, then click submit. Whether you have selected in progress or complete, you will see a screen that says, "Thank you for your submission." If you do not see that, your report was not successfully submitted and retained in the system. Please check that you have responded to all the required fields. Once you've completed your report, click the print button and retain your report for your records. Now we're going to take a brief look at the certified lay speaker report. If you started the certified lay speaker report and find that you do not have the correct document, then you may be a certified lay servant and should complete that report. If you completed the speaker report last year, that information will carry over, so you will only need to update the form. If it is your first time, you will need to re-upload the certificates that were previously retained in your certified lay servant report. As a reminder, it is to be considered a certified lay speaker, you must have completed all 6 required courses. If you are a certified lay servant in the process of becoming a lay speaker, you will need to complete the lay servant report until you have successfully completed all 6 required courses. As you scroll down, you will be asked to provide the date first approved by the Conference Committee on Lay Servant Ministries, date of your last recertification course, and the title of your last recertification course. Follow the same process reviewed in the lay servant report to upload your last recertification course certificate. If you were unable to take a recertification class this year and your certification expires this year or it expired last year, you would upload the Statement of Grace document here. Next, you will need to provide the date of approval for certification or recertification as a certified lay speaker by the Conference Committee on Lay Servant Ministries. Finally, scroll down to the bottom to complete the remainder of the report. Once you've completed your report, scroll down to the bottom to submit the report. If you are still collecting information, once again, you can select in progress and then click submit. However, you must answer everything in red marked with an asterisk. You can always fill in the required information with the TBD as the placeholder. If you have completed your report, please select the complete button, then click submit. Whether you have selected in progress or complete, you will see a thank you on the screen for your submission. Once again, if you don't see that, then it was not successfully submitted or retained in the system. Once you've completed the report, please click the print button and retain your report for your records. Finally, we're going to take a look at the certified lay minister report. As you scroll down, you will be asked to provide the date of completion for each of the 4 modules. Next, you will need to provide the following: the date of your original certification by District Committee on Ministry, also known as DCOM, the date of your last recertification course and the title of that course. You will then need to upload your last recertification course certificate following the same directions provided for the previous lay reports. As a reminder, if your certification was due to expire this year or expired last year, and you were unable to take a course this year, you would then upload the statement of grace here in place of your recertification course certificate. Lastly, you will need to provide the date of your current certification by DCOM or the Conference Committee on Lay Servant Ministries, which may be the same as your date of original certification. Now, if we scroll down, we can complete the rest of the report. Once you've completed your report, scroll down to the bottom to submit the report. If you're still collecting information, click in progress. If you are complete, please select complete and then click submit. Once again, whether you have selected in progress or complete, you will see on the screen a thank you for your submission. If you don't see that, please check to make sure that you have responded to all required fields. Once you've completed the report, click the print button and retain your report for your records. All certified lays should also note that only courses approved by Discipleship Ministries or the Conference Committee on Lay Servant Ministries are recognized as valid certification courses. Throughout the Certified Lay Reports review, I've mentioned a statement of grace. The statement of grace can only be used if you are already a certified lay. While we understand that many of you may be in the process of becoming a certified lay, the statement of grace cannot be used if you were not already considered a certified lay. In case you are wondering if you need to upload a statement of grace, let's take a look at the following. If your certification expired in 2020 or it is expiring this year and you did not take a recertification course this year, you will need to upload a statement of grace when asked to upload your most recent certificate or your last recertification course certificate. If you did take a recertification class this year, please upload your certificate. We'll pause for any questions at this time before handing it over.
Thank you, Christine. We might need Crystal to come back for one question that's related to the section she just did.
Okay.
One of our participants is part of a church merger. They merged two congregations and they have a new name. Should they fill out forms under the name of one of the old named churches or under their new name?
Once they were merged and got a new name, they should have an account in Arena under their new name. So their reports would be filled out under that name. You're on mute.
I love
Crystal.
saying this. We're still in COVID. You're on mute, Crystal. Still on mute, Crystal.
I'm muted now.
You're
Yes.
unmuted now.
I've only clicked it 5 times. But Christine, you are absolutely correct. However, I know that there is a church in my district that process has not been completed for because there's some other things going on. So if you are unable to do that, please contact your district administrator.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now to get to your questions, Christine.
Yes.
Could you repeat the timeframes for recertification, please?
So if you're a certified lay servant or a certified lay speaker, you have a 3-year period in which you are to recertify. If you are a certified lay minister, you must recertify every 2 years.
Thank you. So if someone just took the basic course in 2021 and haven't taken any advanced courses yet, which form do they fill out?
None. They are not considered a certified lay servant until they have taken a basic and an advanced course.
Now we have one participant who had a question. They thought that the system stored the forms that they uploaded previously. Is that correct?
So they do, however, so in the instance, let's say you were a certified lay servant last year and you have successfully completed all six course requirements to become a speaker, then none of that would be retained because you are filling out the speaker report for the very first time. Same thing if you're a certified lay servant and you've transitioned to a minister, this would have been your first time filling out that report. And so it only carries over from year to year if you're filling out the same report.
And so that would also go for if somebody would upload a certificate when they finish the class to make sure they did it, that would be the same process.
Yes.
Now, for clergy who are figuring out, maybe they're at a new appointment this year, they're trying to figure out if they have any lay speakers or lay servants or certified lay ministers. How would they find that out?
Well, the easy answer to that is to ask, but
You would think, but it's okay.
If you have a church admins know a whole lot of stuff. They would probably be your first line, but then also the district administrators would have a list of who is considered a certified lay in your church.
And last but not least, under this round of questions, if someone's interested in becoming a certified anything, where would they look? Where would they find information about what steps they need to take in order to complete that process?
That's a really good question. Our information for that is on the conference website. And I would also highly recommend going back to last year's Lay Servant Ministries Training Tuesday. That webinar was a wealth of information and provided a lot of detail as far as the subtle nuances between servant, speaker, and minister, and each of those processes. Also, don't want to fail to mention, please be in conversation with your pastor.
I've put that link in the chat for those who want to look a little further into the website that Christine referenced. Let me double check. A couple more questions that have come in about lay speakers. If this is your first time filling out the form and you're attending the basic course, but it doesn't end until September, can they put the course on the form and add the certificate after the course ends?
Most definitely. So regardless of whether you click complete or in progress, the forms are never locked down and you can always go back in and make edits. So that would be an edit that you would make to that form. Now I want to be sure to point out, because you mentioned that they were taking the basic, they would not be considered a certified lay servant unless they have taken a basic and an advanced course. So unfortunately for some folk, they got caught in the gap of the pandemic. And so they started the basic, completed the basic, and just haven't had the opportunity to take an advanced course. And the statement of grace does not function for that. So they would just have to wait until they took the advanced.
Well, you lead into our last question very nicely. Thank you so much, Christine. About the statement of grace form. I know it was created due to COVID and classes having to be canceled and postponed. Can it be used for any other issues like a health issue, or is it only COVID related?
As far as I am aware, it is for COVID related. I would say to reach out to your district director. First, have a conversation with your pastor, because you definitely would need pastoral support. And then contact your district director, who would probably then be in communication with our conference director.
Very good. Thank you. So I'd like to say, carry on.
I'm going to turn it over to Crystal, who's going to walk us through the committee leader toolbox under my committees.
Thank you, Christine. Under the committee toolbox, you can Generate your nominations report as you update your committees and you are updating your nominations report for church conference. Maintain your committee rosters and send emails and attachments to those on the committee, and you can track attendance. You can also upload scans of your committee minutes. You may want to run a current and a future committee roster for every committee in your church. You can run the roster reporting tool, which will allow you to run the report for only one committee. It is also important to note that committee leaders' toolboxes are available year-round so that you can make changes as they come up. I'll say again, the committee toolbox is available all year around so that you can make changes to your committee roster as they occur. If you have an SPRC chair who in the middle of their term had to leave and someone else has been put in that slot, please go in the system and update that information when it occurs. Do not wait until church conference season. You will find 32 committee listings on this page. You only need to update those committees related to your church. It is important for you to update at least the key leaders, plus your youth leader, your young adult leader, and your church administrator. The key leaders are your church council chair, your church council recording secretary, council on ministries chair, finance chair, your treasurer, your lay leader to annual conference, your missions ministry chair, your SPRC PPRC chair, your trustee chair, United Methodist Women's president, and United Methodist Men's president. If you are using the one board model, then you can still add these people to the key leaders position and upload your alternative leadership structure in place of your nominations report. Before you can begin, it's a good idea to print your roster for each committee. These rosters will give you the names, email addresses that are already in Arena. You should use this information to add someone to your committee list so that the system does not create a duplicate account. If you know that they have changed their email address or other personal information in Arena and it has not been updated, please click the edit and update that information. Now, let's walk through how to end someone's term and add a new person. You will notice at the top of the page, you have several options. Committee Toolbox Communication is used easily to send emails and attachments for those who are on the committee. You can take attendance. You can run an attendance summary. And you can see all the documents that have been uploaded. This information is available to every committee and can only be accessed through the church's account or by logging in as the committee chair. The active button is used to see only those who are currently serving actively on a committee. If you turn off the active button, you can turn off the active button by unchecking it. You will see everyone who has been on that committee and will be on that committee in the future. To end someone's term, click their name, then click the edit button. At the bottom of the screen, you will see inactive date. Add in a date and select Save. They will remain on this committee list until the date of inactivity has passed. If you put 12/31/2021, they will fall off the active list on January 1st, 2022. To add someone, click the new member at the bottom of the page. The required fields are first name, last name, email address. Arena will attach to match this information with information that is already in the system. This will avoid creating a duplicate account. The default role is committee chair. You must update this role if they are not the chair. So we just added someone and they're not the chair, they're the committee member. So we want to go to the role and select committee member. And for the purpose of church conferences, the date joined would be January 1st, 2022. Put in the date they joined, and like I said before, in this case, the first date would be January 1st, 2022. If you are using the class system where we group people in 3 classes, you would enter the inactive date. If you are not using the class system, you could leave the inactive date blank. Click Add Member. And when you look at the listing, you will see that that person is now on the report, and it shows that they will be active as of January 1st, 2022. You will need to print and sign the completed nominations report, which is found at the top of the page. Once signed, you should scan it as a PDF and upload it into Arena under the nominations report. If during church conference, changes are made to your nominations report, after the changes have been made, you will reprint the report, sign the report, and upload the new report with the corrections. Bill, do we have any questions?
The questions that we have are being answered by Christine, so we are good to continue.
Excellent. Now I will turn you over to John, who will walk you through the compensation report.
Thank you, Crystal. All right, friends, thanks again for being here today. Give me a moment as I share my screen. So just like the other forms, all our worksheets and forms for compensation can be found under the Arena landing page. So we're going to go to bwcumc.org and hover over the Arena page, hover over resources and church conference forms. Sorry, this is the church conference forms landing page. Here you will find, as you scroll down under forms, 2 different versions of the clergy compensation report. There's a single church report and a multi-church report. So the single church report is if your church is on its own. You would only need to use this, you only need to use this one form, and you don't need to share it with anyone else. The multi-church report is intended for charges that have multiple churches within the charge. So if you have a charge that has multiple churches yoked together and they're in a cooperative parish or just in a multi-point charge, It's ideal to use this form so that you can get an idea of what the full total of the benefits package will be for the pastor. Now, there are a couple other instances that we're going to talk about, but not be able to really cover in this situation. So if you have a pastor who's appointed to two different churches, but they are not, those two churches are not a part of a charge, you have an option of having each church use the individual, a single point church conference the worksheet, the compensation worksheet, or to have them use the multi-point worksheet so you can, again, get an idea of what the benefits for the pastor is in total. For both of those instances, though, each church needs to submit it separately, whereas the other instance with a multi-point charge, one sheet can be submitted for all the churches. Now, there's one other instance, especially in the Baltimore Suburban District, where we have charges that have 6 or more churches within the charge. Unfortunately, at this point in time, we don't have a form that can accommodate that, though we are working on something for next year. But until then, for this year, if you are in that situation, just contact your DA and we will work with you on making sure that we can accommodate that. So for tonight's example, we're going to use the multi-church charge compensation form. So when you click it, it'll automatically download. And if you're using Chrome or a Microsoft Edge, you'll see it down here on the bottom. I have an instance already set up for us to review. So when we get into the form, at the top of the page, you're going to enter your pastor's name, pastor's phone number, email, church phone. We're also going to enter the church charge name. Now, every church has an actual charge name. It usually begins with the name of the city and then the name of the charge. For multi-point charges, sometimes they have different creative ways of coming up with the names, but typically for a single point charge, it's just going to be your city and the church's name. You're going to pick your district. If you have any confusion about your district, just let us know. I hope we've contacted you enough that you'd know that by now. And then we're going to go on to adding our 4-digit church code, our church full name, and for the purposes of the multi-point charge form, we're actually going to have a short name in there to become column headers that I'll show you in a second. All right, now that we have all that stuff in, we need to add the submitter. So this is important to make sure that we know who is submitting the form as the first point of triage if there's an error on the form or a question that the DA or DS might have about the compensation. So it's important to have the person who's going to submit it and their contact information on there. All right, moving on to our worksheets. First two worksheets are going to be compensation. First worksheet is non-housing compensation paid directly to the pastor for the upcoming year. Now this, for line 1, cash salary, that is the actual cash that's being paid to the pastor. It's pretty simple. That's there's very little ambiguity about what that is. For our instance with the multi-point charge, Acme UMC is paying $30,000. UMC is paying $16,592, and the total is $46,592. That's an important number. That is the minimum base compensation for a full-time elder at a full elder at full time. So the next sections are things that the church can pay on the pastor's behalf. These are not things that are typically paid, so you will most likely have these blank, but they include self-employment tax payments, other compensations such as gift cards or club memberships, stuff like that. Equitable compensations. So sometimes the conference will help support the church in order to make sure the pastor can be paid up to that $46,592 in certain cases. And so the conference itself will have will actually let the church know they're receiving this grant. And it should be pretty obvious. If you have any questions as to whether or not you have this grant, please contact your DA. And then other support. Every once in a while, a district or a region may, again, offer a grant to the church in order to help with compensation of some sort. So if you have these, those would be indicated in those. And it's important to make sure that they are indicated to which church they are going to. Just this will help to track who in the end is paying what for various things. Moving on to worksheet 2. These are things that are associated with benefits and health insurance. So I'm just going to pause here for a second. This area is where we usually have the highest amount of errors because there's a lot of confusion between what the pastor is responsible for and what the church is responsible for. So these are all things the pastor would normally pay. These are not things the church would be paying. So our compensation type of for the first group here is the UMPIP or Roth. These would be contributions that the pastor would be paying, both pre-tax and after-tax. A flexible spending account contribution. So if you're helping the pastor have a flexible spending account for their health insurance, then that would go here. But again, that's what the pastor would normally be paying, but you are offering it as a gift. Health Flex. Now this is in particular where we get a lot of confusion. These are health effects payments and premiums that are typically the responsibility of the pastor, not the church's $10,320 per year. So if you are putting the $10,320 per year in here, you are making a mistake. Do not do that, please. So this is only the church paying the pastor's portion of health effects premiums. And also for other insurance, so if they have secondary insurance or other insurance that you want to help them with their premiums, that's what would go in here. So again, don't put the church's contribution, church's portion of the health flex payments in here at all. Typically, again, these are blank. So if you have something, just verify it's the correct amount and it's the correct thing. So as we get to the bottom, to get past that worksheet, we're moving on to worksheet 3, which is housing compensation. So there are two options. The pastor can either be living in a parsonage or they may be getting a housing allowance, which is another cash sum paid to the pastor. Again, this is something that you should know whether or not your pastor is living in a parsonage or not. If you don't, please let us know or let your leadership team know. So right now we have it filled in as though these two churches do not have a parsonage, that they're providing a housing allowance. And right now they're paying $10,000 for Acme and $10,771 for EMSA, totaling $20,771, which is another important number. That is the minimum housing allowance for a full elder at full time. So if you are in a situation where your pastor is receiving a parsonage, you'd click yes under this area, and you'll notice this little flag comes up saying this is not applicable, which means no number you put in here will show up at the bottom. It's important because there are some situations where pastors receiving both a housing allowance and a parsonage. I think there's only one or two instances, and that'll be sorted out in a different way. But if your pastor is receiving a parsonage, they should not be receiving a housing allowance in addition, typically. So that is accrued differently at the bottom for their benefits calculations and such. And I'll explain that in a moment. So moving beyond worksheet 3, we get a summary for the total plan compensation. So this is going to summarize all the monies that the church or churches are paying to the pastor. So cash compensation and housing compensation. And you'll notice you see this church's totals here, this church's totals here, and the grand total for the charge is in the bottom right-hand corner here. So this should be the total number that pastor is being paid in cash by the church. Moving on, worksheet 4 is accountable reimbursement. Now, it's important to note that this is not part of the cash compensation. This is a little different. So using IRS guidelines, the accountable reimbursement for the upcoming year minimum for a full-time full elder is $4,100. And this is only payable with presentation of receipts or mileage for appropriate expenses related to their ministry. Now, if your pastor's asking for this in a monthly sum or something like that, that is not appropriate. That is not how this is supposed to be dispersed. Any questions about that, we can provide help with that. moving on to worksheet 5 is benefits eligibility. So we're going to take some time on talking about conference relationship for the pastors. So each pastor has a relationship they have to the conference. I've been talking about full elders. Those are people who are fully ordained in the conference or in the Methodist Church. And so for our example, we're going to start out with full-time, a person working as a full elder and who's working full-time for the church. And you'll notice that our eligibility chart filled in here a little bit. They are required to have CRSP and UM Life options. The UMPIP, which is kind of like a 401k, is optional, and the HealthFlex is required. So if I bring this down to half-time, watch what happens. You'll notice the eligibility for HealthFlex changes. They are, in fact, not eligible for HealthFlex. Now, the reason this is important for you guys, if all of these are required, then you as a church are required to pay the obligatory premiums for each of these benefits for that pastor. UMPIP, there's nothing that's there's no obligation for this, but it's part of it. It is specifically for the pastor, so they know what premiums they're going to pay. But this is for them to know that if they are paying less than 1% of their compensation, they will not get the matching 1% for UM Life options. However, some categories of conference relationship do not receive benefits. So we're actually going to scroll down to lay hire. There's a lot of folks who have lay hires as their pastors right now. You notice CRSP, they're not eligible for. UM Life options, they're not eligible for. UMPIP, they're not eligible for. And HealthFlex is optional for a lay hire at full-time, which is rare. But if we bring it down to half-time, again, not eligible. So it's very important to pay attention to what the conference relationship for your pastor is to make sure it is correct, because these required or not eligible flags are going to change how the total compensation and the total compensation package is accrued and tallied at the very bottom. So please make sure you know what conference relationship your pastor is. If there's any confusion at all, please contact your DA and your pastor. So for our example, we're going to move this back up to full elder at full time. And we can see these are all required. Now, when we come down here, this has been filled in based on our total plan compensation. These numbers are typically calculated from this or from the denominational average compensation, depending on a few things that go into that. So when we get to these totals here, we need to click on and select Y. Now, it's important to use the toggle and select the options that are provided there. If you try and type yes in there, it will actually not recognize that as an entry. So you have to use the toggles that are here. It's actually the same thing up here. You can't actually type in the conference relationship. You have to use the provided options. So we're going to say yes for all three of these. And there's some information here about how these are calculated and such. So if you have any questions about that, you can reference this or contact us and we can help you out. And now that we've said yes here, our form down here, which is our total for the entire compensation report, has been filled in, except for the individual amounts for each of the churches. So you can see on the left here, if it's in red at all and says low or high, that means that there's an incorrect amount that has been input in here. So as you can see, there's been 0 put in here. So I'm going to put a couple placeholders in here. We're trying to provide as many tools for you so that you don't have to do as much work on calculating and such. And so if you know a percentage that your church is paying versus other churches in your charge, this should allow you to know exactly if you've gotten those percentages correctly. And it also allows you to put together predefined arrangements for benefits or health premium payments and such. So you can see down at the bottom, percentage of total obligation for each church is 55%. Here's the total number for each church. And then over here is the total obligation for the charge. So once you see green on here and that number looks correct to you, and all these numbers look correct for your finance and SPRC, you can come down and we can start talking about getting these out to each of the individuals that need to see it. So the first part of this, we're going to need to get signatures from pastor, SPRC chair, and treasurer and finance chair at some point in time. So at this point, I'm going to talk about how, sorry, we have either in-person signatures or through electronic signatures. So if your church conferences are going to be virtual, it may be better for you to get signatures through a virtual means. So we're going to have some links below for some links associated with the materials for this training that will show you to Adobe Sign. But if you are getting physical signatures, it's just important to note that the physical signatures need to be recorded, and then the entire thing needs to be scanned as a PDF. So from here, we're actually going to go back to the church conference website. And we're going to go to Arena this time. So back at the bwcumc.org website, I'm going to click on Arena. We're going to log in as our church and go to Church Conference Forms. From here, we're going to go scroll down to the Clergy Compensation Summary. Click Edit. And from here, we're going to take each of the data from the last block and fill it in as we see it. So total cash compensation, housing allowance if the parsonage is not provided, or if the parsonage is provided, we only have to enter 0 there. Health flex eligibility, defined benefit, defined contribution, comprehensive protection plan, and the total expected reimbursement. And now once we have all those numbers added in, we're going to click Change and upload our completed form. I'm going to click on the completed form that we've created as a PDF or as an Excel spreadsheet. Hit Save, and you'll notice we have an icon showing that there has been a document uploaded. And again, just like the other forms, you'll click In Progress or Complete. And again, all of these need to be filled in before you can submit. Otherwise, it's going to bring you back to the first one that does not have information filled in. So if, for instance, with the housing allowance, you need to enter 0 in order to make sure that it actually submits. And from here, we're actually done with this portion of the presentation. But there's a couple of things I want to touch base with as we wrap up. Signed copies of all forms, anything that requires a physical signature of some sort, needs to be uploaded as PDFs. So if you have physical papers that you're going to have someone sign, they need to be scanned and uploaded. If they're going to be going through Adobe Sign and being acquired that way, they need to be all of them need to be as PDFs. And you should not mail anything directly to the conference, to the DAs, or to the DSs. Everything needs to be uploaded through Arena. That's how we're trying to make sure that all the documents are correct and are in place before we start our church conferences. If you have any questions about this, it's important you get to us as soon as possible. Thank you.
All right, as you said, John, this is the one area that the most confusion and complications take place. So it is, of course, the one area we have the most questions this evening. So I'm going to just work through it is first question is multi-part question. First, who would generally fill out the compensation form?
Typically, this would be done by church administrator or by the finance committee, a delegate from the finance committee, usually the finance chair or treasurer. However, it's not uncommon for small churches, even the pastor filling this out, but making sure that it gets back to the other members of the church to ensure that it has the proper follow through with the committees.
And that would be the same if you're part of a multi-point charge or in a cooperative parish?
Yes. So for multi-point charges, what I usually recommend is that the committee chairs, the finance committee chairs for each of the churches get together and fill this out to make sure that each of the numbers that are filled out for the churches are correct. Sometimes some of the cooperative parishes or combined charges will actually have a charge secretary or a charge finance chair that is taking care of some of these options, but that's not so common. So I usually caution toward collaboration. Try not to do this unilaterally.
And so just for clarity, if you're part of a cooperative parish, you would fill out the multi-charge form?
Yes.
John, I'm sorry, in Arena, that report is to be completed by the SPRC chair.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Okay, so just for those sitting in the back, the SPRC chair fills out those forms. Okay. Under what circumstance would a pastor receive gift cards as a payment towards salary? Because you had said that if you're paying anything like gift cards, under what situation would a pastor get gift cards is the question.
Occasionally, churches like to give gift cards for like a bonus at Christmas time or during a birthday or something like that. That's a pretty common thing. So, but that would definitely have to be listed as compensation.
Okay, now in terms of, you mentioned several items from parsonages or housing allowance. Is there anywhere that the parsonage utilities that the church pays, is that listed in charge conference, or is that just part of another report? That's
actually part of the parsonage report, and I believe might be included in some ways on the finance committee report under, actually, I'm sorry, trustees report. But this is the utilities for the parsonage are not part of compensation.
Thank you. And that's also reported during the annual statistics.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to keep going. Where could somebody find all of the different levels of compensation and packages for the different, if I'm a full elder, full-time, licensed local pastor, full-time, or if I'm a part-time licensed local pastor or part-time full elder, where would we find that information as to what their compensation and benefits would be?
So we're actually going to go back to the charge conference landing page, church conference landing page, sorry. So click on that under resources, go down to the benefits information on the right side here. There's actually a pension calculator that does a very similar thing to what what our calculator on the worksheet for compensation actually already does. But this allows you to work through some numbers and such. And then there are some other information here about medical eligibility. So the eligibility chart, equitable compensation numbers, and the minimum compensation requirements.
John, if I can tag on to that, the clergy, go back to the screen.
Oh, sorry.
The clergy medical and eligibility chart actually shows you a full breakdown as to what full-time clergy are eligible for, what three-quarter clergy are eligible for, half-time clergy, and quarter-time clergy.
Thank you, Crystal.
And for those who are looking for it, I did put, once again, the link to the church conference resource page in the chat, and you can follow that and scroll down and find the forms that to which John is referring. For documents that require district superintendent's signature, will they sign after the documents are uploaded to Arena? Or I guess better yet, when will the district superintendent sign those forms?
There's a little bit of variability with this, but it's always after church conference is completed. So typically what's going to happen is you will gather the signatures on the church conference day or sometime after that. And within that gathering of signatures, the district superintendent will also sign as well.
Okay. We have one of your colleagues would like me to remind people that all pages of the signed compensation form get scanned as a PDF and uploaded into Arena, not just the pages with signatures. So every page of the compensation. So I'm going to give a little shout out. I think that's to Penny. Give her a shout out for helping me remind everyone of that. Also, should people convert all of their documents to PDFs if they're using Excel, if they're using Word, should they all be converted to a PDF before being uploaded?
It's my inclination to say for that to be a yes. So the initial upload of the compensation worksheet can be the Excel spreadsheet, but in the end, you'll need to have signatures on that sheet. So it will have to be a PDF. All the other forms need to be in PDF form. I believe there's only a couple of documents that are even able to be as Word documents and such. So.
I'm just looking back to the gift card questions. If gifts are given during Pastor Appreciation Month, which is in October, would churches list that as compensation?
Yep. Essentially, any compensation that is given to the pastor by the church, it needs to be listed. So if it is monetary or even in kind in some ways, like the services that are purchased and stuff like that for the pastor, need to be listed as compensation.
Okay, I'm just scanning through. Those are all the questions that require answers. Some are being answered directly to the people because they're very specific questions. So as I like to say, carry on.
That is actually the end of our official presentation. I want to open it up to my colleagues to see if there's anything else that I may have missed or if there's anything else we need to add.
Did we respond to the question about local licensed pastors and housing allowance? We've gotten a couple of questions.
I think we referred them to the form that lists benefits and the different levels of benefit and who's entitled to what based on their status, which is found on the church conference form page.
Yes.
But I would add, if in doubt, speak with your district superintendent.
Yes. So I'm going to plug our church conference landing page as a really, really good resource. There's a lot of answered questions already there. If you can, only because this is a high traffic time for us with communication, if you can, try and see if you can answer your question there. And if you can't, then go ahead and contact us. Bill, you're muted.
I caught myself. Oh my goodness. I think I would know after 2 years of doing Training Tuesdays on Zoom. I know it's being answered directly to the person, but the clarification for the gifts, particularly pastor appreciation, it's only if the church as a whole gives the gift, not individuals within the church gives the pastor gifts, because I would think there's really no way to track all of the different gifts a pastor may receive from individuals within a congregation.
Yes. But just a note, consult your tax attorney as a pastor, because that can come back to bite things too. So just make sure that if you receive significant amounts of private contributions, that you're not heading into a legal bad area. So
somebody is asking a question, team, Oh, go ahead. Continue, Christine.
I would also direct people to GCFA's website regarding clergy compensation, taxes, and all of that good stuff to get some more finite responses.
There is one thing that I failed to mention as we went through it. I apologize. In addition to the pastor's signature and name, we're also actually asking everyone to provide an email address as well for each individual person signing the compensation form. This will help for trying to track down if we're missing email addresses and stuff like that. Missing signatures or something happens. And I know that might be difficult for some churches and charges because they may not have email addresses for every individual, but as best you can, please add an email address.
Thank you, John. Now, some people are having a challenge copying and pasting the links from the chat. So everything we've mentioned is, if you go, again, I think John showed us, if you go to the conference website, under resources, church conference form. So it's really just 2 clicks away. I'm just making sure. Somebody has asked about the inactive members report this year. And has that been addressed in our training?
In the training, no, but this year there will be votes on inactive members. So if you are to turn in the report this year, and votes will be taken.
The instructions for how that report needs to be filled out is explicit in the report itself.
And then there's also, if you have other questions, there is a very detailed FAQ on the church conference landing page. I was just taking a look at it today, and all of it is very extensive. It should be able to answer all of your questions. And I don't want to put any undue pressure on any of you DAs because you make everything work. But when in doubt, after you've read everything humanly possible on the website, I'm sure you all would graciously answer a question after somebody has looked thoroughly at the conference website first.
Yes, of course.
One more time, somebody would just like to see, can you show John where the committee leader toolbox is found? And I think that
10 seconds here. So when we go to Arena, you're logged into your church side, or I believe just correct me if I'm wrong, friends, the church administrator can as well access this as well, and pastor. You go to My Committees, and you'll be able to see all the groups and committees in here.
Only when logged in is the church.
Okay, only as the church.
Or a committee chair. Yeah, sorry.
And committee chairs can only see their committees. And church can see all committees. It's also important to note, I think it was mentioned, but if just because there are so many committees doesn't mean you have to have, you don't have to use all the committees that are here, just the ones that are relevant to your church.
very good. Thank you all very much. I want to tell Pete, go ahead, Christine. I see I've done enough of these with you. You've got something, go.
So if you are using the alternative structure under the nominations report instructions, there is an option for you to upload. And so I would strongly recommend that you provide a copy of what your alternative structure looks like. So if you're using the one board model or an advisory council, whatever that looks like, because our nominations toolbox, our committee toolbox does not reflect the one board model accurately. So that would be the best way to provide that information.
Thank you, Christine. Just a couple of announcements as we wrap up tonight, because there has been a few questions. Our next Training Tuesday is next Tuesday, August 17th. And we are going to be covering a new form that is for this year's church conferences called the Discipleship Ministries Form. I'm going to just read to you what that's going to be. It's new for this year. Part of the form is going to look familiar as it incorporates some of the questions that were asked during the congregation from last year's congregational profile. But this year we're using the lens of John Wesley's rule of discipleship to help your church identify different paths of discipleship as well as new paths of engagement. It's also going to help you identify which discipleship path you're currently engaged in, as well as identify resources that are being used or that could benefit your local community to increase discipleship. So our new Discipleship Ministries Form is all about helping your church develop ways to engage and make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. Registration is open. You can find that information on our Training Tuesday landing page. If you go to the conference website and you go under events, we're listed, Training Tuesday is listed under events, and just scroll down to upcoming and click on register. And that will be a great end to our season 2 of Training Tuesday. Season 3 of Training Tuesday will kick off in November, where we'll once again begin training topics for our different committees. So if you have new people joining SPRC, PPRC, or trustees, or finance, or nominations, or church council, any of the what we call the big 5, or if you do use the one board model, you'll be covering all of the duties of those 5 committees. So you could attend all of our Training Tuesdays. So if you have new people onboarding as chair people, if you have new people joining your committees as members, then we offer a training each week for those specific committees or topics related to each of those committees that you will want to attend. And of course, that information will begin to be published September, October in our e-connection and found on the conference website. But just wanted to give you a preview of season 3 of Training Tuesday. I was teasing with our DAs once again that season 2 is going to end with a cliffhanger, so you don't want to miss next week's Training Tuesday, because we're going to have a big cliffhanger, I'm sure. And just as a reminder, because this gets confusing for people, back to church conferences. If your church conference takes place before October 1st, you should turn in all of your forms 10 days prior to your scheduled date. If your church conference is taking place anytime after October 1st, then your due date for forms is October 1st, unless Tanya wants to correct me because she had her hand up or is giving me a signal.
I don't want to correct you. I just want to put in a caveat. So if your church conference is October 5th, your reports will be due 10 days beforehand, so it'll be due September 25th. So it's whichever's earliest. Okay, October 1st or 10 days before, whichever comes the earliest, soonest. Makes sense?
It makes sense to me, but it doesn't have to make sense to me.
Thank you.
It doesn't make sense to those who are participating. And when in doubt, reach out and ask. And I know this information is in the FAQs on the church conference landing page. So please take a look at that. And this video is going to be available later this week. The PowerPoints that were shared tonight will be also available later this week. You will find all of that on the Training Tuesday landing page, and you just scroll down to previous Training Tuesdays. So when in doubt, look on the conference website. So we're running a few minutes over, but I'd like to close us with a word of prayer. But before I do that, I want to just give a big thank you to John and Christine, Tanya and Crystal for their wonderful presentation tonight, for all of the DAs who I know helped put this together and will be answering questions over the next couple of months, to my colleague, Reverend Dr. Green, for joining us this evening and getting us started with a wonderful prayer. So thank you all very much. And if you could bow your heads with me for a word of prayer. Holy and gracious God, we give you thanks for the different seasons in the life of the church. We have our Advents and our Christmas, our Lents and our Easters. We have our ordinary time, oh God. But yes, even in the United Methodist Church, we add extra seasons. We've just gone through the appointment season and we're getting ready for the church conference season. And for all of it, we know that you are God. And in the midst of these administrative seasons, help us recognize the ministry that is present in the midst of administration. I thank you for our district administrators and for the ministry they provide to our annual conference as a whole, to our districts and to our local churches. And I just pray for a blessing to be upon them. Bless all of our participants tonight as they begin or continue this work of filling out forms as we prepare for another church conference season. We pray this all in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and have a wonderful evening.